All right. Welcome to Aspen Updates in an Instant, everyone. So this is kind of a 2-for-1 release cycle again. So we got both the 23.10.10 for a few partners that are going live or that have gone live this month, as well as 23.11 with all of the regular good stuff. So I'll go through both of them. So for 23.10.10, there were kind of two big focuses for this that you'll see. One was CarlX. So we had our another library go live on CarlX. So we'll talk about them later, but Metropolitan Public Library in Oklahoma went live on Aspen with CarlX this week. And that's going really, really well. But in order to do that, there was some development we had to do for some of the unique cases for how they're using CarlX and some differences. So some of the big things, I'm not going to demo any of it, but just to call out a few things. So some importing of some lists from CarlX. There were some changes to how holds happened. A big one was allowing the fines to be paid using CarlX APIs. So they're using a different e-commerce vendor than Nashville was, so had to do some changes there, and then loading some different lost fees and that kind of thing. So some little changes there. The other big thing was related to self-registration, primarily for Symphony. We had a couple of Symphony or a Symphony library going live that really needed some changes to self-registration because they were configured quite a bit differently than some of the other libraries that we'd seen in the past. So part of that, so we'll see down here, we've got some Symphony updates. Oh, I'm sorry, there were three big things. So we've got some Symphony updates that we'll demo as well as talk about. So we updated to allow a barcode prefix to be used as part of the self-registration. So you can say, my prefix is 1234, and after that, there's 8 additional or characters, and Aspen will generate kind of a random barcode based off that prefix. We added some duplicate checking as well for first name, last name, date of birth. So if those 3 all match, then we're going to say, hey, you've already got a library card. And then some additional lookups for if barcode is valid or not. And then updated. We started to show this as part of 23.10, finished it in 23.10.10. So we updated all of those custom self-registration forms to work properly. The other big thing that we did was Sierra updates. And so we had, again, another big library going live. This is the Minuteman Consortium that had just some differences, mainly related to item level holds, using some Sierra APIs. I think that was them, yeah. And then we also had some updates for Polaris for renewing items. Another library going live had some issues where Polaris has a few items that require, or a few cases where you can require the patron to confirm that they want to renew. So for example, if they're incurring a fine or something. So lots of different things we're doing for lots of different libraries there. Let's look at a few of those. So as part of the self-registration updates, we added some email templates. So we're starting off slow. We've got one email template. I'm going to show you this for Mojave, who's one of the libraries that had requested this. So right now we just have a welcome template. So if we go in and edit this, we can see we just give it a name. So this is for you to use. The template type, right now we just have welcome. We will have additional ones in the future. So think about like welcome, resetting pins, all of those things, sending all of the emails that we're currently sending within Aspen. These would eventually be customizable. You can also choose the language. So you can create a different email template for, in this case, Spanish than you have for English. And based off whatever interface is selected, we'll send the correct email address or the correct email to them. We've got some instructions just to say kind of like what parameters you can use and that kind of thing. So as we can see here for the subject, we can embed the library's display name. So we can say, hey, welcome to Mojave Public Library. This is great in a consortium. You can have fewer templates, so you can embed in the library display name and the base URL and that kind of thing. Then you can customize the body. Right now, this is text only. So in a future version, we'll be looking at doing more HTML-based emails as well, but we wanted to make sure that we could get the plain text one. Then you can pick which library. So again, with the consortium, you can choose. Not everybody has to have the same email template. Pick and choose, do what you want. And it all works great. Then the self-registration form. So this is triggered then at the end of self-registration. This email will trigger if configured. So, and you don't have to configure it. You can deselect all libraries. So by default, they're all deselected. If you have an email template configured, it will send for right now just Symfony and Koha libraries at the end of self-registration. So if you get a successful self-registration, it's going to send that email to the patron, assuming, of course, that they put in an email address and that kind of thing. More on the self-registration for Symfony. So we have the ability here to completely customize. We've gone through and made sure all of those fields are working properly so that they all get sent over. You can configure and choose and say, okay, well, here are the fields that we want. Here's the formats that we want. Are they required? Are they not required? Anything that's not there obviously doesn't show. There's certainly a bunch more different fields that can be done. The self-registration file, so some of these settings are moved over from the library. This is where we set our barcode prefix and barcode suffix length. And again, you can pick and see for who is that applied. So lots of good stuff. That's 310. The rest of it's not all that exciting to demo, but lots and lots of good stuff there. So lots of fun new partners that we get to work with. Let's look at 2311.0 as well. Just going to pause for a second, look in the chat. Oh, we could look at adding the username as well if that's prompted for. So yeah, feedback on these, of course, is always welcome. If there's additional things that you think you're going to need to customize, just let us know. Looking at 2311, I'm going to skip over the LIDA updates since Jordan will talk about those later. Wanted to start with, so this is going to be a mismatch of things, a lot of partner priorities that we've been working on. So reducing caching times for account information. So currently in Aspen, the account summary, holds, and checkouts cache for, currently they've been caching for 15 minutes. We've had some people say like, hey, when we come up to desk and check things out, people want to see their accounts a little bit quicker than having to make sure to click that refresh button. We just reduced that period from 15 minutes to 5 minutes just to make it a little easier for people to do that testing without having to go through and click the refresh button. PTFS Europe has provided some great updates to the cookie consent. So let's take a quick look at that. So cookie consent now will show up at the bottom. If you've got it configured and turned on, that's turned on within library settings. We've been able to turn it on before, but there's some additional functionality that we cooked into it. So right now, cookie consent will be stored by user. So if I am logged in with my account and I have accepted cookies or not logged in or not accepted cookies, it will remember that whenever I go and log in. So if I'm somebody who doesn't want to be tracked, I can say only accept essential cookies. What that will do now is after I look at the page, I will not be, so none of the Google Analytics tracking code will be included on the page. So none of that will be, basically my activity won't be tracked. Right now, it's just the analytics and tracking that can also be modified within your preferences. So if I go to my preferences, down here, there's cookies to allow. Right now, it's everybody has to have essential. You can't turn that off. And then analytics can be on or off. So if I go back through later, yes, I'm fine with those being tracked. The library gets valuable data. I can update my preferences and track those. There's also right now when a patron is logged out, if they accept those cookies and then log in, we're gonna, if they have not previously opted into the cookies or set their preferences, we'll go ahead and transfer from what they selected before they were logged in. So we want to give people the best thing and the best experience possible, and we don't want to have to say like, I just told you that I would accept the cookies or not accept them, whichever the case may be. Logging in, I don't want to have to do that again. So really cool stuff there, exciting stuff. Other stuff going back to the release notes, we've been doing some Evergreen updates. We've been doing some Hoopla updates. So this is kind of a cool thing. So previously we've had some cases where, let me find so on this record, the Jason Chin is actually listed in the Hoopla information as an alternate author. So we're now indexing both of those. So now if we do a search for Jason Chin, previously it wasn't showing him because he was an alternate author. Now you will get that. And then, sorry, I skipped over a couple of questions about the cookie consent. Let me go back there. So if you are logged out, let me just log out here real quick so that we see that banner again. So here, there is information about the cookie policy. And if you click on the cookie policy, that gives additional information so that people know what they are logging in or what they are opting in and out of. If you need additional information, please talk with us and we can look at that. And then within the library settings, so let me sign back in here. So if we go back to our library settings, yeah, so the cookie policy is configurable for the text, and I'll show that real quick. And this is, again, a completely optional feature. So if you don't want it, that is totally fine. So down here at the bottom, we've got data protection regulations, whether or not cookie storage consent is required. If that's turned on, you're going to see that button, and you have the ability to customize your policy. If it's turned off, nobody will even see it. So no worries there. Talk through the Hoopla updates. If there's any other questions on cookie consent, let us know. But yeah, we think it's a cool feature, certainly for libraries that are looking at those privacy settings. Feel free to turn on and start playing with us and let us know. For libraries using WorldCat or InReach, and as Jordan says, we're going to talk more about cookie consent later too, so stay tuned. For libraries using ILL systems, and right now it's InReach and WorldCat. We've in the past, so if we're doing a search here, so I think I did a search for Iron Chef America. I didn't find what I was looking for. Down here at the bottom, we have a little message saying, hey, if you didn't find what you need, then we can request through ILL. What we added, and actually Teke Solutions in Argentina contributed this code. So we have the ability to request through ILL. What this will do now is when I click on this, it's going to pass through my search terms. So I don't have to completely start over. So I can see like, hey, I can get all of the DVDs, which is really cool. That again works for both InReach and WorldCat now. So if you're using those, nice ways to help patrons kind of navigate the system a little bit better. Going back to our release notes, some more Polaris changes. So We found a case where there was some polling for changes that was not quite long enough. So sometimes it takes a little bit for an ILS to record like that a checkout has happened or that items and bibs have changed. We just increased the polling time to say, let's poll every 15 minutes just to make sure that we're capturing all of those changes. If any Polaris libraries see any items or bibs not showing up or those changes not taking place, please let us know so that we can take a look at it. But we believe we have found the root cause of some of those. It also accounts for sometimes servers can have slightly different time settings and that kind of thing. So most of our ILS polling has some sort of a buffer there. For self-check, so the functionality that we introduced last time for LIDA to be used to check out materials, one of the feedbacks that we got was, hey, we need to be able to configure what format those are in. So within the self-check settings under Aspen LIDA, we now have supported styles for self-check. And we don't support all of them by default because it does takes a toll on the battery consumption. We do that and kind of keep looking. So you can set whatever your library has. Maybe you have some old and some new ones. So maybe we're going to support Codabar and Code 39. So you can save those and be able to do what you need to do. Let's see. Another quick fix that we did, kind of a quality of life thing, looking back at this. So we've been working on those non-public notes that were showing where we had that code originally to strip out those public to remove the .public and also to remove like staff notes and that kind of thing. It was done on import and we found some cases where basically things weren't changing frequently enough. We just moved that to the indexing to kind of more reliably strip those out. So now just forcing a re-index on anything should cause those to go away. They'll go away as part of nightly indexing, that kind of thing. So that should be a lot easier for people to test and use. Another cool thing contributed by PTFS Europe user list updates. So we have some librarians that didn't really want their name showing, even though they were creating the lists. So now you have the ability to say, don't show my personal name or the name of the account that a list was created with, just make it appear as library staff. So let's just see where to do that. So here under our lists, we have the ability to edit the list. There is a new option, show list in search results, that is defaulted on. So by default, we would see that whatever the account name is would be shown. If that is turned off when it's re-indexed, then when you do a search of all lists, you'll just see library staff as the display name rather than the author. So, and yeah, there's a lot of people that have created list maker cards to be able to set the name to whatever they want. So feel free to keep doing that. This is just another option for people that don't want those names to show up. All right, one last thing to talk about, and then I'll turn it over to Jordan. We just did some updates for two-factor authentication as more and more people are using that. So just a little bit of cleanup related to, we're not going to allow people to turn on two-factor authentication if they don't have an email associated with their account. We'll display error messages if for some reason we get errors with the authentication, just those things to kind of clean that up and make that a little bit more robust. And there's a question about for the lists, can you hide everyone's names for them as an admin? No. So they would have to go in and update those themselves. And then when you create a new list, it will prompt you if you want to show it or not. So, but right now we don't have a way to like bulk update all of those. And as Jonathan was saying, the other advantage of having the maker cards is you can have like adult staff and teen staff and kids staff, and then also let different people update and edit those. So up to you and your personal preferences, whatever you want to do. I think that's it. So before I turn it over, I just want to say thank you to all of our code contributors. This release, Bywater Solutions, PTFS Europe, and TechA Solutions all contributed code to Aspen, and we thank everybody for all of their work on all of these new releases. Jordan?
Yeah, so I asked Mark to stay in Discovery for just a minute. So I want to show you what our new Lita feature looks like in Discovery before I show you what it is in Lita, just so we're all clear on kind of what we're making here. So if you look at the top of the search results here, we have one of those baked in facets for Aspen that lets you search. In this case, this is Laramie County Library, which is a member of the WILD Consortium. And for their libraries, the default is to only search the Laramie County first. And you can see that right above the search results, Mark, if maybe you can point to it, where the blue box is Laramie County Library System. And then if they want to expand it to all WILD libraries, they can. And then we also have other options on shelf available online. Those are configurable. All of you have those configured. Just know right now, this is the facet that we are talking about as I show you how this works in Lita. So go ahead and give me control, Mark, and I will share my Lita simulator. Okay, so what we did was we built in support for that facet into Lita. Previously, whatever you had selected as your default was what you were limited to in Lita. So if you selected everyone in the consortium or all library collections, you could search everything. However, if your consortium's preference was to start with just the individual library, there wasn't a way within Lita to expand that to search all of the collections that your patrons have access to. So now we have that, and I'll show you how it works. So I have a search right here for autumn. I'm going to go ahead and click that in Lita. Instead of cluttering the top of the search results right here, we looked at kind of like 3 different designs, and we're like, we want to leave space for the results. That's what people want. We don't want the top of the phone to be cluttered up with a whole bunch of stuff, especially with things like the little notifications that we did last time. So this is now a filter. If I click filter here, it's the top filter, just like it is in Discovery. And you have those options. So I can search the entire collection, or this is a test instance, so it's not the same ones as Mark was showing you. It's just different libraries. Or I can just search the main library that has 5 fewer results, and I can go ahead and update that. Now, if you think back to what Mark showed you with those filters at the top, there was not a label for that filter, right? Because it was just options at the top. But with the way we have it here, there is a label. And what we have done is labeled it search within. If you go into your grouped work facet settings right now, this probably says available with a question mark, just because that was normally what we put in there. Didn't matter because it didn't show, like it's just part of those settings. But now with it in Lita, it does show. So the other thing that we're going to do is update it for everyone to say search within. This is a really tricky facet to name, everyone. So if you're not happy with the search within, go ahead, relabel it. It's particularly tricky because we have things like collections already. As you can see the filter down here. So it will start as search within Lita. If you change it within your Aspen Discovery settings, it will then update, of course, automatically like everything does here. But it will start with search within. So that's our big Lita filter for this release. I'll go ahead and stop sharing. And I don't think we have any questions, so I will hand it back to Miranda.